Hello and welcome to our journey through the OTC aisle. Today we're going to be talking about the All-Star brand growth strategy. My name is Eric Bauer, and with me today I have my partner, Chris Cummings. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be breaking this down into three distinct sections. We're going to be looking at the early years, which was basically when we started to develop and execute on our plan, some of the challenges that we experienced and overcame during our midlife crisis, and then ultimately the last three periods when we feel like we hit our stride and really started to develop the company or the approach that we want. So with that, I wanted to turn over to Chris to talk a little bit about our early years.
Yeah, so the plan in the early stages was to have a long-term focus. We knew that we were going to go long-term. We knew that we wanted to increase stock prices long-term. We knew that we wanted to gain market share long-term. So it made sense that we kind of tried to look down the road and develop a plan that way. So the first thing we looked at was how we're going to do our segmentation. So we looked at young families. And we targeted them generally because we wanted to build generational loyalty. We figured that would be the best and wisest way for us to kind of increase there. So as you target young families, you're targeting the children, their children's children, and that just kind of snowballs as you go. The next thing that we wanted to look at was stock prices, and we kind of set a value to increase, and our goal was at 3% stock growth per period. So that was the intent, was to try to meet that and kind of go from there. The next thing was our market share. We wanted to obviously increase that, as I said above. Long term, what we're looking at is period by period doing 0.5% increase and kind of going from there. As far as pricing was concerned, our whole pricing strategy was about managing inflation. We wanted to set a good price going into it and then kind of make minor adjustments as we stepped forward with our pricing strategy. No big pricing swings to try to keep things stable. The next thing was we're managing our sales force. We wanted to make sure that we had a reproducible and extremely easy way to kind of manage the sales force and to go to increase each channel segment of our sales force evenly based on the overall kind of sales that we would see. So in the early years, we started off with 21.98% of our manufacturer's sales, our market share. We decreased a little going into the first period, but 21.2%, and by the end of the third period, we were back up to 21.8, which was pretty close to where we started. So we started to counter things at that point. Overall, our net income was continually rising. We started off at 68.49, and by period 3 we were up to 123.97, so that was increasing as we expected.
And so we were really doing well, pretty excited about the trajectory we were taking, and then we hit a midlife crisis. And this caused us to kind of rethink some of our plan because we started to see some things trend in the wrong direction. And so we started to realize there might be some other factors going on. We saw some environmental factors we'll talk about a little bit later in the wrap-up. But we decided to review our marketing strategy, look at our spend, look at what we're putting into advertising versus promotion, look at the messaging. Are we saying the right things to the right audience based on the segmentation that we had during the early years? And so we made some adjustments as a result. We also decided to have a more aggressive pricing strategy. We really started to bring that into focus. Where we hadn't always kept up with inflation, we decided we absolutely were. There were some other issues that caused us to drive up our price to try to address capacity and try to maintain net income. But we realized that we were a premium product, always staying within the top 2, but never being the most expensive on that strategy side. Again, the capacity, we decided instead of doing an inflation-based increase, we actually did about a 20% increase during one of the periods, 5 to 6, to try to address our capacity issue. Now, if that wasn't complex enough and we weren't kind of seeing these challenges, we had an opportunity to add a new product. And we knew in our plan that we wanted to do so. We weren't exactly sure what it would take to do it, but based on what the market was saying about where we expected the growth in either cough or nasal, we ended up going with nasal spray, which we think long-term was the right decision, but it certainly added to our midlife crisis. This is also when we started to realize that the life cycle mattered when it came to addressing our promotion spend and our advertising spend. We realized that All Right was in the introduction phase. So we need to really funnel money into awareness, getting people familiar with the All Right brand, while All Round was in the growth stage, starting to hit maturity. So we needed to change our messaging. We needed to kind of maybe do a little bit more of the reminder messaging and adjust some things to meet those requirements. And the results was, we started off pretty high in share of manufacturer sales, and we ended up dipping by period 7, kind of leading to some of the results that we see in the stock price. On the net income side, we were pretty flat during this period, which we were okay with, though we certainly wanted to grow. We didn't see any major dips in net income, and this was due to the fact that although we significantly increased our price, we did that while lowering manufacturer sales, but maintaining net income. So something we were okay with at the time.
So by period 8, we were starting to kind of get comfortable with the program, kind of hit our stride. Like we mentioned before, that life cycle played a big factor in how we kind of proceeded. We adjusted our marketing spending based on the life cycle that we interpreted. We kind of reduced overall advertising because by this time we realized that promotion was kind of more important, especially as we kind of got more mature with our product. So we increased there. We also tried to sell through the capacity issues. So we started kind of seeing a small increase in capacity, and we decided instead of making any price adjustments to reduce that, we would just push through it and kind of see where we got. And by the end, we had to make an expansion. We also wanted to leverage this life cycle stages and really kind of optimize the plan here. So basically taking what we had learned in class with our market mix, we started adjusting things as necessary for All Right and All Round. So by this point in time, we started to see a pretty significant shift in our market manufacturing sales percentage. We went from 21.6 to 26% by period 10, and overall our net income increased from 113 to 207. So we were pleased with that direction. It was definitely meeting the goal of more than that 3% growth that we were looking for.
Yep, exactly. And now what we want to do is kind of compare, what our plan was to what our results were, right? So one of the things and one of the key things we set out to achieve was 3% per period growth. Now, looking back, doing that on an average probably would have been a better decision, but overall, we averaged a 9% growth for the entire period. You can see that there were some pretty wild swings, up 24%, down 21%, up 44% period over period. But we ended up hitting that goal, right? Instead of a 3% per period, we hit 9% overall. If you look at the market share growth, again, something similar. We started out saying we want to focus on a per period. When looking back, we probably should have done it on a longer term. But we did hit that 2% market share growth on average over time. Again, these swings, up 5%, down 2%, up 15% at the end, pretty happy with how we ended up and definitely hit the goals that we had.
Right. So the results of our journey. Overall, kind of how did our tactics play out? So we definitely played up the 4 Ps, the price, product, promotion, and place. And kind of looking at price, we wanted to keep our pricing structure. We wanted to kind of increase with inflation. Overall, we wanted to kind of maintain just a steady kind of pace, and overall that worked for our products. With products, we really wanted to look at the product life cycle. We wanted to kind of develop the products as we heard that our customers were giving us feedback. So we made some formula adjustments. We took out alcohol. We really tried to kind of push the products forward on that basis. Promotion. So with promotion, we really decided that the point of purchase sales really helped us. We really saw some swings there where people weren't intending to buy our product, but they got to the point of purchase promotion and wound up purchasing our products from there. And then next is place. So we started looking at our channel and trying to, the channel that we determined would be the best was kind of our grocery chain, and that really played a huge part in our kind of growth, was making sure that we focused on that and really looking at our channel sales to adjust our sales force in accordance. And we did that every period. That was critical for this, and that really paid off as well.
And so unfortunately, Chris and I can't manage this forever. So after period 10, we're going to turn this back over to a different brand management team. But I think we're leaving them in a pretty good spot. So all around at the end of period 10 was 85% market awareness, and All Right had already gained 36.9%. So we're starting to really see the fruits of the labor, right, and set people up for a good position. Also on unit sales, although kind of wavering from periods 1 through 8, we really started to see both All Round and All Right tick up very, very nicely towards the end. So we're leaving them in a very positive position. And equally important to unit sales is product contribution, which is going to impact net income. So again, although we started to see some wavering and didn't necessarily grow as much or as fast as we wanted to, once we hit really that stride, that 8, 9, and 10, we started to see product contribution. So you can kind of see from here that we're leaving the company in a very, very good spot for future growth.
So lessons learned. What was our takeaway from this? Well, kind of initially, pricing is pretty important. So you have to have those increases with inflation. You have to kind of ride out some ups and downs from the environmental kind of influences. You really have to kind of, like I said, keep things stable, but be aggressive as you kind of move forward.
On the capacity side, it's something we never experienced during the early simulation. It's something that we didn't experience to our midlife crisis, but we realized we were incurring a lot of additional costs, reducing net income as a result of outselling our capacity. I think our peak was selling at about 120 to 130% of capacity. And what we realized is that this was starting to drag down net income, but conversely, we also learned that by the end, the company added additional capacity for us. So looking back, instead of maybe increasing our price so significantly to address capacity and bring it down within back to 100%, that we'd kind of sell through that to see what that would actually do.
And environmental influences, going back to pricing, there were some external influences that help keep us on our toes, right? We had to counter some downturns in the market. We had to make sure that we were accounting for those and kind of thinking critically as we saw each little bobble. And we had to adjust our sales force accordingly, which meant that sometimes we had to reduce sales, make the tough decisions to kind of let people go, as it were. So.
And then we rolled into multi-product complexity. So all these decisions we were making for all round during period 6, we realized that we needed to start making them discreetly for all round and all right. And so we were managing 2 different products at 2 different stages with 2 vastly different budgets. So something we certainly underestimated when it came to looking at complexity.
And what we learned was promotion is king, right? So as we did market tests and things like that, we really determined that promotion was the one that was really adjusting our overall forward motion on our shares of market. And so what we really focused on was that point of purchase. We decided that was probably the most critical, the most biggest bang for our buck. And so we really focused on that and kind of indirect sales force.
And then right around period 3 or 4, when in class we started to talk about product life cycle, we kind of jumped on that, and we really started to look at our decisions based on where the products were, whether they were in an introduction stage like All Right, whether a growth stage like All Round, or when All Round eventually hit maturity, and we started to adjust our spend. But we learned the importance of adjusting these decisions based on product life cycle. And so with that, we'd like to wrap up. So thanks for taking this journey down the OTC aisle. So Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we look forward to talking to you all soon.
Yeah, sounds good.